Okay, so this is called it's by Bruce Bourque and Laureen Labar, Uncommon Threads, Wabanaki Textiles, Clothing and Costumes. So this is basically about Native art and how from the very beginning of contact, Indigenous people were able to adapt and were very resilient. So they were adapting tools and clothes and like all kinds of different things. So and we're able to capitalize on their skill and create things for Europeans that had a particular interest in Indigenous art. But it's also about how Indigenous art was exploited through colonialism, and it's also a story of revival through art. So that sort of got me thinking about how Indigenous art is placed in the past by Western culture, and I found that really ironic considering the embroidery was taught by the Ursuline nuns. Because when I think of embroidery, certain images come to my mind, and I think of dated styles, and then that started making me think like maybe they think their own shit is primitive. So I found that was really interesting. But another thing that I found interesting was how Indigenous people knew that this was happening, and they were basically like catering to Euro style. So, and it's like kind of hard to reconcile it when it gets the part about basket making and how the deforestation basically reduced the ability for the Mi'kmaq to continue it. So that would be really devastating when you consider the teaching and the community and the culture that is involved with that. So they know that if encroachments of non-Indigenous populations constrain traditional activities, this is what it says. They also created new economic opportunities as Wabanakis themselves expanded their social horizons. So, and I don't know, like I didn't think that was a comparable trade-off. I thought that was like kind of a shitty part. It was like, basically, we're going to come in and exploit you and your people in the land, but you might make a few bucks, so, there's going to be some new opportunities for you, so. And I found that was kind of the tone of the article, like, how Indigenous people sort of capitalize off of the new explorers and adapted things like it meant nothing. And I don't really agree with it, because I think that at that point they were probably going through a lot. Like I think it was pretty harsh, and it was probably really difficult to live without money and food and all of those things. So yeah, the things that you need. So yeah, so all these different things that they made for Europeans, like these little pouches and whatnot for their clocks, basically made Indigenous arts, like Indigenous culture, homogenous and consumable, and yeah, and I just thought that was interesting. I also found it interesting that people like Gabe Paul were, like, if you think about the Indigenous people, they were involved in every aspect of, like, even creating these institutions, like helping to create and yeah, and build these collections. So yeah, I wanted to look more into that. But yeah, so it seems like the desire to consume Indigenous art almost made it impossible to keep up with. So and they were not only homogenized but also like reduced to like a souvenir art, and there was a lot of problems associated with that. And yeah, so this is a very good strategy for colonialism to destroy culture. And so yeah, so, and this was a European driven thing. So and then it talks a little bit about how things started to change in the 60s and 70s and on, and Indigenous people started to like reclaim their craft, and so it becomes more of like a political thing and a resilience thing as well. So that's important. So yeah, so it was a good article. So yeah, see you in class.